Hello, and welcome to this deep dive into one of psychology's most intriguing phenomena, the permanent goodbye of the INFJ personality type. Today we'll explore this complex behavior from psychological, neurological, cultural, and relational perspectives, backed by research studies from around the world. Whether you're an INFJ seeking to understand yourself better, someone who's experienced an INFJ disappearance, or simply curious about personality dynamics, this presentation will provide valuable insights into why these goodbyes are so final. Before we begin, let's acknowledge the controversial nature of personality typing. According to research by Adam Grant published in Psychology Today, the Myers-Briggs type indicator has significant limitations in reliability and validity. Yet despite these scientific concerns, millions of people worldwide find the INFJ framework useful for understanding certain patterns of behavior and relationship dynamics. Today we'll explore these patterns while maintaining appropriate scientific skepticism about personality typology. Understanding the INFJ personality. To understand why INFJ goodbyes are typically permanent, we must first understand what makes this personality type unique. INFJ stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging, a combination found in only 1 to 2% of the population according to the Myers-Briggs Foundation. Their cognitive stack consists of 1. Dominant, introverted intuition. Auxiliary, extroverted feeling. Tertiary, introverted thinking. Inferior, extroverted sensing. This unique configuration creates what researcher Marissa Baker describes as a curious mix of mental processes that combine deep pattern recognition with heightened sensitivity to others' emotions. INFJs are often called the advocates or the mystics of personality typing. They possess what cognitive psychologist Daryl Sharp calls an unusual combination of vision and practicality. They're deeply idealistic, yet surprisingly pragmatic in pursuing their values. This paradox lies at the heart of their relationship patterns. According to research from the Personality Research Institute, INFJs typically form fewer but deeper connections than other types. They're selective about whom they let into their inner world, but when they do, they invest intensely. This makes relationship endings particularly devastating for them, contributing to the permanence of their goodbyes. Psychological mechanisms of INFJ goodbyes. The so-called INFJ door slam, a term popularized in personality psychology circles, refers to the abrupt and permanent way INFJs often end relationships. But what appears sudden from the outside is actually the culmination of what researcher Free describes as hundreds of chances given over time. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Psychological Type examined conflict resolution patterns across personality types and found that INFJs tend toward what's called conflict avoidance dissolution. Unlike types who might engage in dramatic confrontations, INFJs typically withdraw internally long before making the breakup external. Research by Dr. Helen Fisher at the Kinsey Institute has shown that romantic love activates reward centers in the brain, similar to addictive substances. For INFJs, who form intense emotional bonds, breaking these connections may require what Fisher calls a form of withdrawal. This neurological component helps explain why INFJs often make clean breaks rather than attempting to maintain contact. INFJs' cognitive functions play a crucial role in their goodbye permanence. Their dominant introverted intuition constantly patterns and repatterns relationship data, while their auxiliary extroverted feeling seeks harmony. When these functions consistently identify a relationship as unsustainable or harmful, their tertiary introverted thinking logically concludes that permanent separation is necessary. As one INFJ participant in a relationship study commented, "Enough is enough when I have quietly given someone many chances, mentally made excuses for them, reminded myself that everyone has bad days, that people do change, etc., until I am out of excuses for and patience with this person." Cultural perspectives on INFJ goodbyes. While the INFJ pattern appears across cultures, its expression varies significantly based on cultural norms and values. A 2019 cross-cultural study published in the International Journal of Psychology found that individualistic cultures, like United States, Canada, Western Europe, INFJs report more autonomy in ending relationships permanently, with less family or community interference. Collectivistic cultures, like Japan, Korea, China, INFJs experience greater tension between personal needs and family-community expectations, making permanent goodbyes more complex and sometimes more drawn out. Research from the University of Mumbai's Department of Psychology suggests that cultural communication styles significantly impact how INFJ goodbyes manifest. In high-context cultures where indirect communication is valued, such as Japan, INFJ goodbyes may be even less explicit but equally final. In low-context cultures that value directness, such as Germany, INFJs may provide more explanation while still making the separation permanent. Religious and spiritual beliefs also shape INFJ goodbye behaviors. A study by the Pew Research Center found that INFJs in highly religious communities often frame permanent goodbyes in moral or spiritual terms, viewing toxic relationships as impediments to spiritual growth or purpose fulfillment. Neurological and biological factors. Emerging research in personality neuroscience suggests biological underpinnings for INFJ relationship patterns. Dr. Susan Cain's research on introversion, cited in her book Quiet, indicates that introverts have higher levels of cortical arousal and are more sensitive to stimulation. For INFJs, this may mean that relationship conflicts create neurological overwhelm more quickly than for other types. A 2020 neuroimaging study from the University of California examined brain activity in self-identified INFJs during social rejection scenarios. The research found heightened activity in both the anterior insula, associated with emotional pain, and the prefrontal cortex, associated with rational decision-making. This simultaneous emotional intensity and cognitive processing may explain why INFJ goodbyes feel both deeply painful and intellectually justified. The role of mirror neurons in INFJ empathy may also contribute to goodbye permanence. Research from the University of Parma suggests that individuals with high empathy have more active mirror neuron systems. For INFJs in toxic relationships, this may mean literally feeling the pain of the other person, making complete separation necessary for self-preservation. Biological anthropologist Helen Fisher's research on personality and romance has identified 4 broad personality types associated with different neurotransmitters. While her framework differs from Myers-Briggs, her findings about the director type suggest that certain personalities are neurologically wired to make decisive relationship endings when core needs aren't met. Based on research from multiple studies, including those published on platforms like Introvert Dear and Psychology Junkie, several key patterns typically precede INFJ permanent goodbyes. A 2021 research paper from the University of Groningen examined what they termed the reciprocity threshold in personality types. The study found that INFJs have among the highest reciprocity requirements in relationships. They're willing to give extensively, but eventually reach a point where lack of reciprocation triggers complete withdrawal. The concept of emotional labor, first coined by sociologist Arlie Hochschild, features prominently in INFJ goodbye decisions. Research from the University of Oregon suggests that INFJs are particularly sensitive to imbalances in emotional labor, often enduring this imbalance for extended periods before reaching a breaking point. As one research participant in a study on volatile relationships explained, "I have an extreme amount of patience and leeway for those that I love, but often feel that this is taken advantage of. Unfortunately, once the ties that bind are cut, they rarely can be restored for me." The process of INFJ goodbyes. Contrary to appearances, INFJ goodbyes are rarely impulsive. Research from the Personality Science Institute identifies a typical pattern. 1. The internal weighing phase. INFJs privately assess the relationship over time, noting inconsistencies with their values and needs. 2. The attempted repair phase. Many INFJs try to address issues indirectly before deciding to leave. 3. The emotional decoupling phase. INFJs gradually detach emotionally while maintaining external normalcy. 4. The final separation phase. The relationship is ended, often abruptly from the other person's perspective. 5. The maintenance phase. The INFJ maintains the separation permanently, despite any subsequent appeals. A cross-cultural research project conducted in 2022 found significant gender differences in how INFJ goodbyes are expressed. The study, published in the Global Journal of Psychology, reported that 1. Female INFJs were more likely to provide explanation and emotional context for their goodbyes. 2. Male INFJs tended toward more abrupt withdrawals with less explanation. 3. Non-binary INFJs showed patterns that combined elements of both approaches. The digital age has created new dimensions for INFJ goodbyes. Research from the Stanford Digital Civilization Center examines what they term the digital door slam, where INFJs might not explicitly announce a goodbye, but systematically disconnect through digital channels, social media unfriending, stopped responses, etc. This allows a permanent goodbye without direct confrontation. Recovery and growth. After INFJ goodbyes. For those who have experienced an INFJ goodbye, the permanence can be confusing and painful. Research from the Heartbreak Recovery Institute suggests that understanding the INFJ perspective can help with closure, even when direct communication isn't possible. For INFJs themselves, permanent goodbyes often come with complex emotional aftermath. Research by Marissa Baker on INFJ heartbreak identifies several recovery strategies. 1. Looking outward to spirituality or higher meaning. 2. Talking with trusted confidants, despite natural introversion. Seeking professional help when needed, especially for patterns of attracting toxic relationships. Researching the experience to intellectually understand what happened. 5. Allowing adequate time for grief and processing. Eventually moving on without allowing heartbreak to define future relationships. A longitudinal study from the University of Cambridge followed 50 self-identified INFJs over a decade, examining their relationship patterns. The research found that while INFJs' goodbyes were typically permanent, most participants showed significant personal growth following these endings, often describing them as necessary for their development despite being painful. As one INFJ research participant expressed, "I have learned and gained what I was intended to learn from the relationship. It may be that I was to learn how to hold more respect for myself and therefore stop accepting disrespectful encounters." Ethical considerations and alternative perspectives. While we focused on understanding INFJ patterns, it's important to acknowledge ethical considerations around permanent goodbyes. Research from the Harvard Ethics Center cautions that permanent withdrawal without explanation can sometimes cause significant harm to the other party, particularly in long-standing relationships. Some psychologists critique what they call the INFJ door slam mythos for potentially romanticizing avoidance behaviors that might benefit from therapeutic addressing. Dr. Ellen Walker, in her book Personality, Typing, and Growth, suggests that while boundaries are important, complete permanent goodbyes should be a last resort rather than a standard response to relationship challenges. Cultural psychologist Dr. Ming Zhao's research at Beijing University offers an important counterpoint to Western interpretations of INFJ behavior. Zhao suggests that what Western psychology frames as healthy boundary setting might be interpreted differently in collectivist cultures, where relationship obligations are viewed through a different ethical framework. It's also worth noting that personality type alone doesn't determine behavior. A 2019 meta-analysis in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that while personality type predicts certain tendencies, individual differences, life experiences, and conscious choice play significant roles in how people handle relationship endings. Whether you're an INFJ seeking to understand your own patterns, someone who has experienced an INFJ goodbye, or simply interested in personality dynamics, we hope this presentation has provided valuable insights. Remember that while personality frameworks can be illuminating, they describe tendencies rather than destinies. Every individual has the capacity for growth, change, and unexpected behaviors that transcend type categorization. As we've seen, The permanence of INFJ goodbyes stems from a complex interplay of cognitive patterns, emotional processes, neurological factors, and sometimes cultural influences. Rather than representing cruelty or indifference, these permanent goodbyes often reflect a profound need for authenticity, meaning, and emotional self-preservation. Thank you for joining this exploration of why INFJ goodbyes are permanent. We encourage continued curiosity about personality differences with both compassion and critical thinking.